You are in historic Filipinotown if you are driving, walking, or riding down Temple Street or Beverly, or both, between Glendale to the east and Virgil to the west, or perhaps on Bonnie Bray or Occidental, or both, or up the cut on Parkview to Coronado, or maybe back down to the old Rampart Police Station and its crimes against the peoples. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were at the Filipino Workers Center, majestically occupying a whole hillside. But there are many of us who remember the PWC space in its humble infancy, when it was just a pair of buildings, big lot, open hill, and it was a place for garage jam bands and spoken word events, roosters crowing at dawn's light, and communal food and goodness after and before worker meetings. You are in historic Filipinotown if you are at Puro Arte or Puro Arte 2 or Remy's on Temple for an art opening or a concert or both. Whether you're there to hear Native Guns launch their latest album on the backyard rooftop, or hear Grace Nono in the former storefront chapel, or to see the visual work of Alfie Numeric, Faustino Caigoy, or Manuel Ocampo, or others. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were at the Filipino American Reading Room and Library, whether it was in Luzon Plaza or at SIPA, or both. Or perhaps you came down to that restaurant in Luzon Plaza to watch Uncle Fred Cordova perform an oral history of a Filipino cannery worker at a gathering of the LA chapter of the Filipino American National Historical Society. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were there before the name and it was just a gateway neighborhood where your Tita Baby or your Uncle Bong lived, or both. Or perhaps you just went to visit Bahay Kubo for the karaoke contest or the food, or both. Or perhaps you just went to Aling Neri's for her ukoy before she had her food truck. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were practicing tanikling in Sonia Cappadocia's living room with all the furniture pushed to the side, or later in her studio garage just off Reno Street and took merienda with dancers from Bayanihan Dance Company all the way from Manila, or you danced with her Silayan Dance Company, carrying her daughter Dulce as Singkil Princess atop your shoulders down Temple Street, processing to the Lotus Festival at Echo Park in the 1980s, or performing on stage at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in the late 70s. You are in historic Filipinotown if you went to the Filipino American Christian Church or the Filipino Christian Church, St. Vibiana's, or you're part of the largest congregant group at the Lady of Our Angels Cathedral, and you've ever marched in a Santa Cruzan or a Veterans Day parade on Temple Street, or volunteered at Baschi or Fakla, or both, and participated in that music video shoot for Beboy. You are in historic Filipinotown if you came to SIPA to help pass out or receive free Thanksgiving turkeys from Manny Pacquiao. Or if you ever worked for SIPA or worked at SIPA for PhilAmArts or Paral or any other nonprofit organization, or you came to a workshop there or a community meeting or had Kali practice, or you went to a youth gang or tobacco intervention session or a dance practice, or you attended an inaugural performance of Jessica Hagedorn's Dog Eaters, or the Lang Canto CD reunion show, or the Balagtasan Collective seminal event, The Bus Stop, or some other show of note. You are in historic Filipinotown if you currently slang and used to slang and claim or rep some set or hood, and maybe you did, or maybe you gave it up because you met a caring adult or a recruiter or an elder who pointed you to other options. You are in historic Filipinotown if you are bakla, queer, or trans and surviving AIDS or HIV, or just part of our general trans women and trans men community, or a tomboy or a femme or a non-binary, or just a queer, and you're listening to Joelle Barikil Tan's queer poppy porn. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were part of People's Corps or JFAV, KMB, Bayan, Gabriela, or Affirm, or if you ever ate with the Filipino Manong Bet on the patio at McDonald's on the corner of Alvarado and Temple. You are in historic Filipinotown if you are that hi-fi mix, part Black, part Salvadoran, or Guatemalan, or Chicanx, or Cubanex, or Korean, or some other downtown LA adjacent mix. You are in historic Filipinotown adjacent If you ever spent a Friday night in the 1980s crushed against the glass cake displays amidst the steam as you waited for hot pandesal to be peeled from baking sheets, piping hot into crisp white paper bags at Betsy's on Vermont. Or if you ever went to a backyard boogie catered by John Eric and Christine and the Park's Finest crew before or after the storefront or two. You are in historic Filipinotown if you were ever touched by Papo de Assis, Hospicio Dulnuan, Tita Lilia Cahilog, John Delora, Tita Norma Austin, Don Mabalon, Arnold Moreno, Peter Corpus, Linda Mabalot, Brad Bagasao, Rico Obusan, Auntie Helen Brown, and Uncle Royal Morales, and either some or all of these ancestors. Because Anax, you are historic Filipinotown, from its literal streets to its artistic and cultural legacies and future. And it is now your turn, our turn, to write our next collective chapters. Maraming salamat. Happy birthday, high five. Thank you.